coming out of Hurricane Melissa. What next and what should be happening right now? We'll be hearing from the opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Alfred Dawes. But before that, though, another health concern, more heat and how it's affecting Jamaicans. Now, we spoke with vendors in Westmoreland, and we also spoke with a climate change expert. Here is this overview on the concerns about heat following Hurricane Melissa. All right, so we are going now to this report that we did about heat. We spoke with the vendors at the Scott Cove Fishing Village. This is at the border of Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth, and we also spoke with co-chair of the climate change group at the University of the West Indies Mona campus, Professor Michael Taylor. He is also the head of the Faculty of Science and Technology at the university.
Took not only lives, but leaves.
Trees like the ones you're now looking at used to provide shade for people who work here at the border of Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth. Now, given the significant damage to the trees right across the country because of Hurricane Melissa, another significant impact or after effect of the hurricane is the increase in heat. So tell me something, without the trees, does the place feel any hotter?
Mad! Oh my God! You can't talk about it's sun dread. Because we have nothing to shade away, you know. Right through with us a sun. Unless the Lord just have the mercy power and just beat the place sometime.
Jeanette is a vendor at the Scott Cove Fishing Village at the border of St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland. So is Andy.
He's terrible, man.
Yeah. What was it like before here in terms of like with the tree shade? The tree was have a little bit more shade.
Yeah, because even though we have stall here, we have tree over the stall. It was so cool and nice, man. Yeah. And then we used to just relax. We don't have to go out to the next one, we don't go out to the next one. But now, jeez, everywhere to sun. No shade.
So worse since the hurricane?
Yeah, man.
Worse, huh?
It look like global warming get warmer. Terrible. If it was 90 degrees before, now it's 120 or more.
Malcolm Brownwell is concerned about his skin tone.
I did brown around this. So you get me black. Because I have to work in ice, man. Yeah.
How the heat since the hurricane?
Terrible, man.
Yeah. If I have to drink more liquid.
Yeah, more water. Yeah, water. Yeah, all of them back away. Every morning I make you out a big bucket of water like that.
Like say if you used to drink how much water, how much you drink now since the hurricane extra heat?
I never used to drink much water, but I drink, I say, 5 of them sometimes.
Jeanette is thankful for help from customers, but laments the days are sweltering.
Wow, so it's just like a difficult situation.
Yes.
If rainfall,
and you
can't mind the heat.
Please, we have a shelter. When the rain fall, the water pouring, blowing power, same way. But alive.
This kind of draw heat a little bit.
Yes, same way with the heat and the frying pan, the frying the fish and the heat come back to you. Because each time the breeze come up, it come down, the heat affect you.
So how you manage?
Me? Every minute me go in the kitchen, me do the thing, me run come back another day. Because yesterday God was so good. There was this nice lady come and say, whose stall is this? And I said, me. She said, come here. And she called me, she said, here is a tent. I didn't get her name. But she said, here is a tent, put it over your shop. I can see, because me never have nothing over it. We just have to stay in a little shop there, so. And I share the sun. And she called me yesterday and gave it to me. I said, God bless you. I was so grateful for it. So it helped me today. Yes, because I have no canvas nor nothing yet. So they pretend, oh my God, it's a blessing to her. Wherever she is, may God bless her.
How do you manage?
Well, we have to just try and find if I want wall or something, we go and do that. Until we cool down a little bit, we come back again and do something, because if we can't see,
you drink more liquid to stay.
Yes, man, we drink case of water a day, man. Especially with the family at the house. Oh, God. And you can't get water to buy. Because the other day, we got the trading shop. Only 6 or a dozen water they could have used.
How you manage the heat again?
Why? Actually, live up the side of this guy and money because we are just a youth and we want to work up work. I'm happy money.
The place get hotter since the hurricane?
Let that work hotter. I know people tell that all the children will lose the tell and stuff great. No, nothing.
What you do? How you drink? You feel like you drink more water?
Yes, we drink more water than when we used to.
You don't drink again because of the heat?
Yes, because your money costs you water.
Professor Michael Taylor is Dean for the Faculty of Science and Technology at the University of the West Indies and co-director of the Climate Studies Group, MONA.
I know that there are persons who are feeling, especially in the West, that it is hotter post the hurricane. And I think it's, there are ways in which I can see why people would have this perception and why I think it's valid. The first thing is that Melissa would have changed what I call, or resulted in what I would call small changes in the local climate. So by this I mean, one, Melissa would have caused a lot of loss of shading, so trees, leaves from trees, lack of, the trees were just devastated, especially in the worst hit part. And so you would have less shading in that microclimate. But also with damaged buildings, you would have what I would call changes to wind patterns as well. And then the third part of the change in the local climate is that you have lots of ponding of water. And so once you have lots of water on the ground and the sunlight directly hitting these ponds, you get increased evaporation, and so you get increased humidity. So feeling hot is actually a function now of that you have the temperatures and the humidity mixing together.
Outside of those factors caused by Melissa, people in Western Jamaica are exposed to greater heat in other ways.
There is kind of increased exposure after Melissa. So normally you would have in the day gone into a building with AC or a covered roof or sat under a tree, but with the absence of all of these things now you're exposed actually to the direct sunlight. There's also increased exposure of concrete surfaces which absorb heat and radiate. And in addition to that, you now also have the lack of electricity for cooling. So throughout the hours of a day now, you are exposed to greater heat simply because Melissa has changed the environment and caused greater exposure. So if you add the fact that the microclimate might have changed to the fact that you are now exposed. And then of course we want to remember that we're also on the temporary roof, things like tarpaulin, and those create like what we would call the greenhouse effect. The things heat up and then the heat can't escape.
These after effects contribute to the long-term change in climate, according to Professor Taylor.
So climate change has created already a warm environment, and Melissa's impacts, whatever, what I explained about the kind of change microclimate and the greater exposure now happens on top of that background.
Now we'll go to a quick break. Our first break here on the lead story. When we come back, we hear from the opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Alfred Dawes. Dr. Dawes to comment on the 11 cases of leptospirosis and the 2 cases of tetanus, or what we call lockjaw in Jamaica so far. I do want to comment on this concern about the increase in heat and how this can affect people, especially people who work out in the sun. Dr. Dawes, one lady told us that she's now dizzy, and a man told us that he was having a headache in the theatre just now because of the increased heat. How, if at all, does it affect people who work primarily in the sun?
Hi, good evening, Giovanni, and good evening to all the viewers. Well, firstly, we are experiencing climate change because this and then the person said leave that from the wind to south. It's only now that you're starting to see some buds coming from the tree. So there's no shade and the sun is out, and for persons who are outside and may not be drinking as much as before, again, we have to think about accessibility to water, potable water. That might be a challenge. So dehydration is a consideration that we have to to look at in the post-disaster areas, especially coupled with the fact that some people are not just working outdoors, but they're living outdoors as well. So it's very difficult to address now. The good thing is that we're going into December, January, which is a little bit cooler, but we are seeing warmer temperatures out there, and it's the humidity is not as such that it will allow us. The heat feels hotter. So there's the actual heat and there's the perceived heat, what it feels like. And because of the humidity, it might be a little bit hotter in some areas.
From a medical perspective, there are legitimate concerns. For example, that, the extra heat is making people sick, and we do apologize to our viewers for that feedback that you would have just heard. We apologize for that technical issue. But in terms of, from a health perspective, your advice to people who don't have a choice but to exist in this extra heat, especially in the western parishes, as Professor Taylor mentioned?
Hydration. That is what kills people. When you hear about heat stroke and so on, usually our bodies can self-regulate, but it does that by not just sweating that you can feel, but what we call insensible water loss, where your skin might be just glistening and the evaporation of the water cools the skin. So you're losing water without realizing, and especially in the elderly, where their thirst mechanism may not be as functional as when they were younger, the tendency is to get dehydrated. So you have to look at your urine to see if it is getting more concentrated and the odor is higher, and look at your stool to see if you're getting constipated, because the first place that your body sucks extra water from is from the stool. So if you find that your stool is hard and you're becoming less regular and your urine is getting more concentrated, it means that you're not keeping up with your hydration and you need to improve on that.
Now, speaking of that issue, let's now segue to the 11 confirmed cases of leptospirosis that the health ministry announced today. Karen Webster-Carr spoke about it at a briefing. You had said just a little over a week ago, and I quote you now, quoting from the Gleaner, more people die after a natural disaster than during it. And you did speak about these very issues, leptospirosis as one of the potential issues that might arise out of this. And again, the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Jacqueline Bisesa-McKenzie herself, stated that this was to be expected coming out of a system like Melissa. Afterwards, just as we had last year an increase in leptospirosis cases, you would have expected that this year. So not to say that the ministry didn't, put people on alert, but what needs to happen now with this issue that we're hearing about 11 confirmed cases of leptospirosis?
Well, the only thing we can really work on now is public education and identifying persons who are at risk. So leptospirosis starts off with very vague symptoms, and for the majority of patients, it remains a mild form with vague symptoms. So abdominal pain, vomiting, diarrhea, they may have just flu-like symptoms where they have ache and fever. But when they start to have this abdominal pain and when they start to have jaundice, yellowing of the eyes and skin, it means that it's the more severe disease that is taking root, and they have to get medical attention very quickly because their liver and kidneys can fail in very short order. We have to get people to stop going into these bodies of water to bathe and wash clothes, because it's not just ingesting that can lead to contaminated water that can lead to leptospirosis. Just simply being splashed with that water. And as somebody who caught leptospirosis years ago,
just pause right there, Dr. Dawes, and just for some of my viewers, what exactly is leptospirosis? How do people get leptospirosis?
So it's a type of bacteria, and it's usually carried by rats. And when the rat's urine, in particular, infects water and food, and it might be a simple thing like a canned soda. If they contaminate the top of that canned soda and you don't wash it off before you put your mouth on it, you can get it that way. Now we have to remember that Westmoreland is one of the sugarcane belt parishes. So you have a lot of cane piece rats as well, and they are becoming displaced along with other animals. So they're going to find themselves closer to the humans, and humans are finding themselves closer to the outdoors and the elements because they have no houses to protect them. So you're having
people need to wash off anything you buy from the shop right now. Even in buying some of the non-perishable items, just wash off the packages before using the products is the advice.
You have to wash them off and be careful of what you put your mouth on. Even if something seems to be clean, a soda or something like that, you have to be careful. But then bathing in especially bodies of water that are not running, like in the rivers. Rivers you can catch it from too, but in bodies of water that are stagnant, where the rats would come and drink and other infected animals might go there.
Well, almost out of time now. I have just about a minute to go with you. Tetanus are what we call lockjaw. How do people contract this, and what do they need to do to kind of prevent any wide-scale spreading of this?
So usually it's when you get cuts, and because you have a lot of debris out there, the rusty nails and zinc and so on. But the easiest thing to do is once you get injured by anything that's been outside, especially rusty metal, go to the hospital and they will give you a tetanus toxide shot. That's a booster, as well as antibiotics to ward off any infection. But the important thing is the detox shot that would prevent your body from reacting.
Dr. Joe, we have to go. Sorry, Dr. Dawes, we have to go to a break right now. But just before I let you go, just in 15 seconds, the other concerns you have, because you mentioned in this article I'm looking at, warning of a potential public health crisis. In about 15 to 20 seconds, what exactly are you concerned about?
I'm worried about dengue right now because the mosquito population is exploding and we still are having cases of diarrhea. So water and food, be careful, vector control to try and avoid dengue. But public education is what we need right now.
Dr. Alfred Dawes is the opposition spokesman on health. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Dawes. A very important issue. We can't finish this discussion in one go, so it's something that we will come back to. Thanks again for your time, Dr. Dawes. When we come back, we'll be hearing from the president of the Jamaican